what you saw when you saw him break that all-time passing yards record last night. What were the kind of thoughts that came into your mind?
First, it's consistency, right? You don't. That's not a single game record. That's not a single season record. That's a career record. And so, for a guy who was 5'11", a second-round draft pick, a man who had a 25% chance of coming back for a shoulder injury, to end up where he will not end up because he still has more to play, to break a record like that, it talks about his consistency, talks about his durability, and it speaks to his willingness to adapt, right? Because the game has changed, Stephen A. The game is different from 18 years ago when Drew Brees entered the league. And for him to be able to compete in this era, in an era where the game has been more spread out, in an era where quarterbacks have gotten more athletic, when they think that you need to be able to get in and out of the pocket, for Drew Brees to show this consistent level of excellence throughout his career, I think it actually defies what we think as conventional wisdom makes a quarterback. You know, the height, the arm strength, and the different measurables that we see. He's shown that you can do it through hard work. You can do it through understanding concepts. You can do it through durability with accuracy. And I think it's amazing that a guy like Drew Brees now holds that record.
Then why don't you have him in your top 5 as one of the top 5 quarterbacks all time, Ryan Clark? Why do you have somebody like a Brett Favre rated over him? I know you personally, and I know how you feel about these guys.
So you set me up. So you set me up.
I just asked a question.
So you had me say how much I thought, how great I thought he was. So you can set me up.
All I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to ask a question. I know you consider him one of the great quarterbacks who have ever played this game, but you didn't say top 5.
He's not top 5.
But you feel that way about Brett Favre.
I do feel that way about Brett Favre.
How do you feel that way about Brett Favre with 336 interceptions on his career?
Understand that, right? In order to be in that conversation, at some point, you have to be the best quarterback of your time. Drew Brees has never been that. And I hate this discussion because on a day where we should be talking about his accomplishments, this comes into play. It's like talking about LeBron. Every time we talk about LeBron and his greatness, is okay, where does he compare to Michael?
He's insulted because we have him on our Mount Westmore. But how dare us have him at number 2?
Right.
Unbelievable. But go ahead.
Right. So Tom Brady, right? Obviously we've seen the excellence. He does have the yards and he has 500 passing TDs, but it's about his championships. Joe Montana, it's about his championships. And a lot of times when we can't quantify things in championships, it goes to measurables. It goes to the way that they play the game. And I looked on Twitter after I talked about Drew Brees looking like my accountant. And what I meant by that is not necessarily just the aesthetic look, just the way it's the ball spins off his hands, the type of velocity he has on his throws. It's not one of those things where we look at Drew Brees like we look at Patrick Mahomes and say he's a generational talent. And so I think when we look at the measurables, when you see a Brett Favre and the way he was able to throw the ball, you look at a guy like John Elway, Dan Marino, the talent level was much higher than Drew Brees. And so if you can't give Drew Brees the championships that allow him to be in the greatest of all time conversation, it now goes to how talented he was. And I think when you compare him to the Brett Favres, the Dan Marinos and those guys, he doesn't stack up in the top 5 as compared to those.
Do you have any issue at all with people looking like at a Baker Mayfield and thinking like he has that in him to be that next guy, that Drew Brees clone? I've heard that. How do you feel about that?
I think Baker Mayfield is more talented than Drew Brees. I think a lot of times we point to Drew Brees because of the stature, right? But when you watch Baker Mayfield's release, when you watch how hard he throws the ball, actually Jarvis Landry even said, I'm gonna have to turn the jugs machine up a little more when it went from Tyrod to Baker because Baker throws the ball so hard. Baker can move around a little bit better than Drew Brees. But even saying that, I don't expect Baker Mayfield to break this record. I can't expect that level of consistency from Baker Mayfield. And I think that's what makes Drew Brees' accomplishment so special. To not have him in my top 5 or my top 10 is not a slight to Drew Brees. It's just that I think other people were more gifted and won more championships. But for Drew Brees to do what he's done, we can't even put that on Baker Mayfield with him being as talented as he is because it was more than just talent that got Drew Brees there.